Hey roadies, how's it going? This is Adriana from Roadie Free Radio. In this episode, Larry speaks with front of house mixer and sound engineer Bruce Reiter, who has toured worldwide with rock and heavy metal bands such as Five Finger Death Punch, Fear Factory, Static X, and so many more. In this short clip, Bruce talks about what makes a heavy metal show enjoyable. It's the pressure that you want to recreate for the audience to get that intimacy. In addition, Bruce also talks a little bit about how he talked himself out of a gig. You don't want to miss it. If you want to hear more about Bruce, make sure to check out the full episode, number 106 from November 28th, 2018. Thank you for listening, and thank you for subbing. Here are Larry and Bruce.
Grew up in a town called Champaign-Urbana, Illinois,
Yep.
Twin Cities, college town. And there were a couple of really great engineers there. Gary Rogers and Doug Gurna were probably two of the most notable in my youth, because they, and I don't know, there were a lot of them, but they let me mix shows for them at a club when like the opening bands, when they would want to, Gary would want to go to the bar and hang out and bullshit with his friends while the opening band on Metal Monday is happening. So this kid Bruce, he'll do it, so I'd hang out and he taught me how to solder and how to use a voltmeter, and just how to do a changeover, how to write a patch sheet, and we have 7 bands with completely different setups, and there's 15 minutes between each band, and the owner of the club, Amy, is going to be really mad if you're late,
Right, go.
So, yeah, so and it has to sound good because the fans of the club have an expectation, because people like Doug Gurna and Gary Rogers were the engineers mixing the bands there that the audience was used to hearing.
Sure.
So I'd think I was doing well, and Gary would come up and insult me and tell me that it was one of the worst things he's ever heard, or I'm not God's gift to sound, or something really mean, and there would always be some nugget of truth or value in what he would say, though, about the deficiencies, and then but once I started touring, people like Greg Price, I think, was probably a huge inspiration, and Mick Hughes, watching Mick Hughes mix. I was on a tour with a band called Rancid, and we did Lollapalooza in 1996, and they Metallica was the headliner, and so that gave me an opportunity to watch Mick and how he tuned the PA, how he EQ'd channels, or how he balanced the guitars, how he pushed the faders during the show, just to make sure everything was a nice balance. And but I watched him. I hung out and shadowed him every single day of that tour, and learned so much that I took, and I think his biggest advice was just don't be afraid to turn it up.
Right.
It was,
Yeah.
and and I went through a phase of, I wasn't afraid to turn it up. It was really loud and sounded awesome, but it's fucking loud.
Yep.
And then I realized, I can get it to appear loud by making it sound clear if I just keep it quieter, and it'll be more comfortable. So pleasant and powerful is more what I'm looking for now, especially with a metal band.
Sure.
It's already aggressive music, so I think it needs to be softened up in a way with the mix,
yeah,
and made to be comfortable, and I don't know, pleasant is just the word that comes to mind, because when I'm at a show and I have to hold my ears or put my earplugs in, it's frustrating to me,
Yeah.
And if it's too harsh, or if the subs are, just overpowering the mix, it makes the show not enjoyable, So that's, I guess, one thing that I'm really looking for, is making sure it's pleasurable for everyone.
Sure.
And like bringing it back to the basement thing, it was always comfortable and pleasant. It was very loud, but it felt good. You know?
Right.
Like the sound of a snare drum, that pressure, you know, that you feel when you're standing 2 feet away from it is just, you know, that's something that you want to recreate for the audience to get that intimacy. You know? And you know, the guitars and the drums and the vocals, I mean, it's a guitar band, you know, but the audience really, all they care about are the vocals. Can they hear the vocals, and can they hear the melody that they're familiar with? Other than that, they don't really give a shit what we do. You know? I mean, probably, you know.
Yeah. And what about the band? I mean, obviously you've been with these guys for 8 years, you know, so there's a great relationship there, and obviously a large amount of trust. Yes. But if you share something like, I want to make it pleasurable, or I want to soften it a bit, I mean, does that, you know, make an artist go, whoa, you know, we're more of a rock band.
You have to be careful with the adjectives you use around an artist.
Yeah.
You know, and I learned that when I was trying to find gigs when I was young. I used to open the CD booklets and you'd see the management and the record covers. Yeah, you'd see the management information or booking agent information in that, right?
Yeah.
And you know, so I would call them or write them letters trying to get gigs, you know, and I managed to get on the phone with the singer of a very well-known band from that. And I talked my way out of the gig by words that I used. I almost had the gig. Like, this rock star was going to hire some, you know, 22-year-old kid.
That's crazy.
He didn't, because, you know, I was talking about how I like to manipulate this and change that and, you know, freak this and whatever, you know, and I just used the wrong words. I would have done, I think, what he was envisioning.
Right.
But so talking to an artist, you know, is a skill, you know.
Yeah.
And with this band, we have, you know, 5 members in this band that are very unique, strong personalities, and, you know, you have to definitely navigate how you interact with them for longevity, you know, because I'm friends with all of them, but I'm also their employee.
Sure.
And there has to be that line that's a definite line, you know?
Yeah.
And if there's some business thing, you know, they have to be able to tell me to fuck off, or I have to be able to tell them, you know, and if it's a personal thing, you know, has nothing to do with our business. This is between us as friends.
Right.
You know?
Right.
But there's a time and a place to deal with both. And I can't, you know, you can't be too friendly with the band, even though you are friends.
Hey, what's happening, roadies? It's Larry here. Just wanted to thank you so much for listening to this short clip. I really hope you got something out of it. If you can take 2 seconds to head over to iTunes and drop us a review or a comment, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Keep listening, keep coming back, stay healthy out there, and remember, no roadies, no rock and roll.